COVID-19. As we know it, in December of 2019, an outbreak of the new coronavirus was identified in China. The virus spread quickly and caused panic worldwide. In an attempt to prevent the spread of COVID-19, new social regulations were established. Many public areas now require you to wear a mask, maintain at least 6 feet of social distance, avoid large crowded areas, wash your hands frequently, and avoid touching your face. People who have been exposed to COVID may experience some common symptoms like a fever, having difficulties breathing, coughing, and loss of smell and taste. Symptoms can vary per person since it affects everyone differently. These symptoms make it easy to mistake COVID for a common cold. This is why it's important to get tested. A PCR test and an antigen test are two ways you can test for COVID. However, an antigen tests are more likely to give false positives. People who have received a positive test for COVID-19 are required to quarantine for at least 14 to 15 days, or until tested negative. But what is coronavirus or COVID-19? Coronavirus originated from a large family of coronaviruses called Coronaviridae, and all members have similar structures to each other. They are known to have the largest single-stranded RNA viruses compared to other smaller viruses like the flu. This family of viruses all travel through the respiratory system that can cause respiratory illness for both people and animals around the world. However, COVID-19 was identified as a new strain of coronavirus. Studies show that it has genetic instructions to make spike protein. This protein can trick the human cell so it can't recognize the virus and allows the virus to easily attach itself to the human cell. Unfortunately, 2.53 million deaths have been recorded worldwide. For more information about COVID-19, you can visit the link below. What are vaccines and how do they work? Vaccines are a type of medicine meant to trigger the body's natural defense system to produce antibodies and fight diseases, although sometimes the weakened pathogens can still affect its host and cause them to become sick. However, vaccines help strengthen the body's immune system so it can develop immunity and naturally prevent infections. Vaccines work by attaching themselves to the virus's spikes, this in turn prevents the virus from attaching to healthy human cells. There are different types of vaccines. The RNA vaccine, used in Pfizer and Moderna, have pieces of RNA to produce the same antigenic proteins as the virus. Non-replicating viral vector vaccines use less infectious viruses that can't replicate inside the body, hence the name. And inactive vaccines use whole viruses that are inactive or have been killed. Other types, like live attenuated, replicating viral vector vaccine, DNA vaccine, and subunit vaccine, are all also common types of vaccines. To learn more about how they work, visit the website below. How are vaccines made? Almost all vaccines are created in a lab by scientists using the same recipe to keep them safe and effective. Ingredients include antigens, preservatives to avoid contamination, stabilizers to prevent chemical reactions, surfactants to keep them mixed together, small amounts of residuals, diluents to lower the vaccine's concentration, and adjuvants to boost the immune system's response. However, vaccines like Moderna and Pfizer do not contain preservatives. Vaccine exception. In order for any vaccines to be accepted into the United States, the FDA's Center for Biologics Evaluation and Research is responsible for regulating the incoming vaccines. Sponsors must follow an approval process that includes submitting an investigational new drug application, pre-licensure vaccine trials, a biological license application, vaccine results, and usability testing for product labeling. Even after the vaccine has been approved, FDA continues monitoring the product to ensure no shortcuts are being taken in the process. Priority stages for vaccine distribution. In stage 1, the vaccine is first given to healthcare workers and social workers. In stage 2, the vaccine is given to people over 65 and to people who are immunocompromised and have pre-existing health conditions. In stage 3, the vaccine is later on given to the remaining population.
Overall, the vaccine developing process is a very rigorous and time-consuming one, given clinical studies require data from over tens of thousands of participants and FDA approval. According to the Pan American Health Organization, 20 of the potential 150 vaccine candidates are already being tested on volunteers. Most of these vaccines require 2 doses. As of February 18, 2021, there are 3 COVID-19 vaccines that have received authorization for use by the FDA. The first one being the Pfizer-BioNTech COVID-19 vaccine, which was authorized on December 11, 2020. The second one, being the more popular Moderna COVID-19 vaccine, was authorized on December 18, 2020. More recently, the FDA has determined that the Janssen COVID-19 vaccine has met the statutory criteria for issuance of an EUA. The totality of the available data provides clear evidence that the Janssen COVID-19 vaccine may be effective in preventing COVID-19. The data also shows that the vaccine's known and potential benefits outweigh the known and potential risks, supporting the company's request for the vaccine's use in people of 18 years and older. The good news is that the vaccines will soon be available in local pharmacies for free following the delegated rollout previously explained. Neither of the 3 authorized and recommended vaccines contain the live virus that causes COVID-19, so after being vaccinated, one will not test positive on a viral test. Safety and effectiveness of the vaccines are ensured by the FDA and CDC. Let's talk about some potential risks and side effects. It is important to note that it is totally normal to feel a little under the weather for 1 to 2 days after receiving the vaccine. These side effects actually mean that the vaccine is working and doing its job. The side effects include sore arms, pain and redness around the injection site, fever, tiredness, fatigue, muscle ache, joint pain, and headache. The listed side effects are not deemed dangerous and are typically only short term. Let's debunk some myths. Can I pay to get early access for the COVID-19 vaccine? As explained previously, the COVID-19 vaccine is to be delegated for free at local pharmacies. So if you're being asked to pay for the vaccine, it is probably a scam. Is it true that the COVID-19 vaccine can affect a woman's fertility? No, this is not true. The COVID-19 vaccine has no effect on a woman's fertility, although it is still recommended that pregnant women consult their doctors before being vaccinated. If I get vaccinated for COVID-19, can I stop wearing a mask? The answer is no. The truth is, experts are still unsure of how long a recovered person is protected from getting sick again, in other words, from contracting the virus again. It is recommended that vaccinated individuals continue to wear their mask and practice social distancing. Controversial substances in COVID-19 do not exist. It is made up of regular ingredients such as fats, salts, and sugars. The vaccines do not include any fetal tissue, implants, microchips, or tracking devices from the government. Another common misconception is that the COVID-19 vaccine will alter DNA. This is untrue. The COVID-19 mRNA vaccines do not change or interact with the DNA in any way. It does not even enter the nucleus. mRNA vaccines simply teach our cells how to make a protein that triggers an immune response specific to that virus or disease. Please do not ingest Lysol. This does not prevent the acquisition of the COVID-19 virus. Check your facts, get the vax. So where did the failed vaccines go wrong? Merck & Co., a pharmaceutical company outside the US and Canada, discontinued their COVID-19 vaccine productions after early trial data showed that they failed to generate immune responses comparable to a natural infection or already existing vaccines, produced fewer neutralizing antibodies to halt infection. Next, the Sanofi and GlaxoSmithKline, a British multinational pharmaceutical company headquartered in London, England, delayed their rollouts for the COVID-19 vaccine because while it did elicit an immune response comparable to already existing vaccines in participants of ages 18 to 49, it failed to do so in participants older than 50, the more susceptible population. Advancements towards the shot's antigens formulation are being studied and hopefully eventually produced. Lastly, Russia's Sputnik V COVID-19 vaccine has yet to be approved because it did not meet the minimum requirement. It failed to provide adequate assurances for phase 3 of the clinical trials, and manufacturing issues were also detected.
As seen by the COVID-19 Stats News website, in totality, there have been 88 candidates, 224 trials, and 11 approved vaccines. Provided by the Statista company, which has all current and updated statistics for COVID-19 and its vaccines. On the left are the most widely used vaccines in the largest number of countries, and on the right are the most ordered vaccines by million doses. The main countries for the production of the vaccines have been the United States, the UK, Russia, China, and India. Among the FDA-approved vaccines, Pfizer was the first and Moderna was the second. And the two are the first and third most widely used of all approved vaccines. Johnson & Johnson is the second most recently FDA-approved vaccine and has several hundred million purchases. Pfizer is followed by AstraZeneca in worldwide use, but is not FDA-approved for the United States. This is for two main reasons. One, it has not yet finished its trials in the United States and therefore, two, has not yet applied for FDA approval. To be FDA approved means that the US Food and Drug Administration has accepted the company's application containing evidence of clinical testing. mRNA vaccines have been held to the same rigorous safety and effectiveness standards as all other types of vaccines in the United States. This is a brief list of the main vaccines used globally and their respective vaccine types and percent efficacy preventing moderate to severe COVID-19. Vaccine efficacy is how well a vaccine performs under ideal conditions. Moderna and Pfizer are the most used vaccines globally and will be further talked about in later slides. The Johnson & Johnson vaccine is a partnership between an American and Belgian company to produce a viral vector with 66% efficacy. The other 8 vaccines are used in various countries worldwide but have not yet been approved for the United States. The Sputnik V is a viral vector vaccine with a reported efficacy of 91.6%. Oxford AstraZeneca is a viral vector vaccine created in the UK with about 70% efficacy. Sinovac is an inactivated vaccine created in China with a reported efficacy rate of about 50%. Covaxin is a viral vector vaccine created in India with an unreported efficacy rate. Sinopharm Coronavac is an inactivated vaccine created in China with a 72.51% efficacy rate. Epivac Corona is a protein subunit vaccine that was developed in Russia and a reported efficacy rate of 92%. CanSino is a viral vector vaccine created in China with a 65.7% efficacy rate. Pfizer, Moderna, and Johnson & Johnson are the only US FDA-approved vaccines for now. mRNA vaccines are new but not unknown. Researchers have been studying and working with mRNA vaccines for a decade. The first two vaccines authorized for use in the United States have been mRNA vaccines. mRNA vaccines do not put a weakened or inactivated virus particle into our bodies. Instead, they teach our cells how to make a protein that triggers an immune response inside of our bodies. The immune response, which produces antibodies, is what protects us from getting infected with the real virus. Moderna, also known as mRNA 1273, uses mRNA in lipid nanoparticles for its vaccine. It requires 2 doses of 100 micrograms each and are administered 28 days apart. Their phase 3 enrollment had 30,000 participants and 94.1% efficacy rate, which is a high efficacy rate when compared to the other vaccines. Their clinical trials included people of diverse age, sex, race, and ethnicity, as well as individuals with underlying medical conditions, although the efficacy rate has been seen to drop to 86.4% for people ages 65 and older. The company's planned volume production is 1.3 billion in 2021, and the storage requirement is negative 20 degrees Celsius with a shelf life of 30 days. Some precautions to have for this vaccine are: if you have any allergic reaction, seek immediate attention. The common side effects were previously mentioned. The Moderna COVID-19 vaccine went through all appropriate clinical trials, development, and regulatory requirements. Moderna began working on COVID-19 vaccine in January of 2020 and was authorized by the FDA in December of 2020. The process for creating Moderna was 27 months, which was split into 4 different phases. Pfizer, also known as BNT 162b2, uses mRNA and lipid nanoparticles for its vaccine as well. It requires 2 doses of 30 micrograms each and are administered 21 days apart, which is relatively less than the Moderna vaccine. Their phase 3 enrollment had 43,998 participants and was concluded to have 95.0% efficacy, which is the highest efficacy of all COVID-19 vaccines. Their clinical trials included people of diverse age, sex, race, and ethnicity, and those with underlying medical conditions. The efficacy rate never dropped and was the same for all diversities. The company's planned production volume was 1.3 billion in 2021, and the storage requirement is negative 70 degrees Celsius, which is the coldest of all requirements, with a shelf life of only 5 days, which is a lot lower than Moderna. Pfizer has similar precautions and side effects as the Moderna vaccine, since they are both mRNA vaccines. The Pfizer-AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccine went through all of the appropriate clinical trials, development, and regulatory requirements, and it was given emergency authorization use in December of 2020. The process was a total of 12 months and 10 days. The reason that the Pfizer vaccine process was the shortest of all the others is because the company had already been researching SARS, which is severe acute respiratory syndrome that comes along with the coronavirus, as coronaviruses have previously existed before. Frequently asked questions for both Moderna and Pfizer. Since both of these are mRNA vaccines, the answers are similar to these questions. Based on the evidence so far provided by the CDC, FDA, and other research, the new variants have not been seen to alter vaccine effectiveness, but this is still being monitored. And currently, we do not know if the vaccine prevents infection against transmission, but immunity is seen to persist for several months, but the full duration is not yet known. Public health measurements must still be maintained, such as wearing a mask and keeping 6 feet distance apart, at least until herd immunity is reached. Herd immunity is when a large part of the population is immune to a specific disease and the rates of infection are majorly decreased.
Another vaccine that is currently in the works for authorization in the US is the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. This vaccine is different from the others since it is a single-dose vaccine. Its creation process began in July of 2020 and had a minor interruption in October due to some adverse reactions that occurred. It continued its process towards the end of October and is now finally up for approval by the FDA. Its efficacy is 72% and was found to be 85% effective in preventing serious illness or hospitalization. This particular vaccine works by using a host, in this case an adenovirus, to latch onto a cell and be absorbed. This absorption allows the virus to carry the genetic information to the nucleus and swap it, giving the cell a template of how to begin producing spike proteins. The cell begins to replicate spike proteins, and eventually it's assembled to alarm the immune system. The final vaccine we will be discussing in detail is Melbavax. This vaccine is a 2-dose UK vaccine that is currently finishing its phase 3 trials. This vaccine is similar to the Johnson & Johnson vaccine in the sense that it uses a host virus known as the baculovirus to carry out the job. The virus carries a spike protein that infects the cell until it begins to pump out spike proteins on its own. It's almost like it's creating an army that can then be used to form a stronger immune response within the body. So far, within its trials, it has an efficacy of 89% and is 96% effective against the original COVID-19 strain. It is not completely effective against every variant, which is why there is some hesitancy towards this vaccine. As for side effects, there has been low levels of any medical-related reactions. COVID-19 has drastically changed our lives, and understanding these vaccines is important since it is one method of majorly reducing the risk COVID-19 possesses. Hopefully, from this video, you were able to learn how these vaccines work and the processes behind them, as well as how effective they are to be against COVID-19. We hope you enjoyed our breakdown of the biological systems that come into play with these vaccines and were able to determine which vaccine may be right for you, if any. Thanks for watching.